Hey everyone. Let me see if this works this way this time. I'm not really good at making this video stuff. I don't know if this is going to record how I want it, but let's give it a whirl. So, wanted to make a video, introduce myself, and put a face on a name some of you guys know, some of you guys have met. Crazed builds. If you're on forums and you've probably seen the screen name Rob Bob, it's a nickname that I've had for years. I've used it in pretty much anything RC related forums, some gaming forums too, but anything RC related, I've always used Rob Bob. Wanted to take this time to make a video, or try to again, of just saying hi, introducing myself, and answer maybe a couple of questions of, where have I been or what have I been up to in the rock crawling world. So for those who don't know my history, RCs in general, 40 years. I've been doing this a long time, competing in a lot of different things, 30 years. From oval racing to one regretful long year of actual dirt racing. I will never do that again. It was a long time ago. To indoor on-road racing, carpet, asphalt. I think I've done a lot of different classes. If it's got a receiver and a speed control, I'm looking to grab the radio to it. I bounce in and out. It's not about being the best at something, it's just enjoying the hobby. Like I said, 40 years I've been doing this, 30 years I've been competing in some class or another. But some of you may have seen on Krazed Build's Facebook page, rock crawling parts popping up, or pictures or posts, or seen me tagged on my personal page and others about rock crawling, and question like, are you coming back? I am not as hardcore as I used to be, just because I'm wrapped in a lot of different things in life. It's got other things that I juggle, family, work, my own mental stability, and enjoying my hobby. But I don't regret any of it. I enjoy all of it. So for now, I'm starting off in the sporty, shafty. I've been collecting parts for some time now, for the past year. So a lot changed in the last year. Sold my house, and girlfriend and I bought a house together. It's opened a lot of doors as far as the business goes, as far as my hobby goes, and it's great, for the two of us actually being under the same roof finally. She gets the upstairs and the second floor, and I get the basement and yard chores, so it's worked out, I guess, for both. But down in the basement, I get the little bit that you can see behind me, and a lot more of this room. So I get a man cave that is my work area, my office, my design area, shelves to throw everything on. Let the camera balance out here. I get a room that's sealed off. It's a finished basement with one room that was left unfinished, thankfully. That is the room that my machines are in. So both of my CNCs are in there, my lathe is in there, my drill presses, my dust control, my air compressor, all my equipment's in there, material, shelving, supplies, all that other happy production crap. Shut the door and noise is manageable. The other room that we have downstairs besides the laundry room is my inventory room. That's where I've got everything, you know, for inventory from my production line to the outside vendors that I carry for like the racing world. Hanging on a wall. I've got my 3D printers in there, my FDMs, my resin printers. So a nice temperature steady room for printing. Not that I do not that my business is based around 3D printing. It's not. 3D printing to me is a lot of rapid prototyping, and I'll get into it shortly. Some rock crawler stuff when I come out with my kits. But so that's a lot of that changed, and racing has been great. Very active and busy in that. My Mugen asphalt car, my GT, see if I can do this the right way, my GT12 Schumacher Eclipse 5, my Destiny DTY12R 17.5 car, my X-Ray 13.5 car, and the pink body goes to, let me grab it real quick, my current car coming into the 24-25 season, the ARC A10 four-wheel drive touring car. Super excited with this car. This car is coming off of the Schumachers. I've had great success with the Schumachers, the MI7, the MI8. I wanted to go a different route. Very happy so far with this ARC. So excited to get back on the carpet this winter with that. But outside of that, it's summertime, and yes, I'm getting back into crawling. So, like I said, been collecting a lot of parts, been putting things together, and looked at a lot of notes that I had for over the years, and bringing the Unstuck name back out, of course, with the Shafty rigs. For those who are kind of new to it and don't really know my story behind the Unstuck, so the Unstuck line, the Unstuck is a name on a line of chassis that I make. It started years ago. I had a driver come to me that goes by the screen name of Stuck on Crawler site. He wanted me to work on a project with him, so we got together, we worked on a project, and we came up with, he gave me what he wanted for a chassis, and I said, okay, yeah, I can do that. We got it all together. I liked how it came out, and at the time I was still getting back in the first time after getting out the first time, and I wanted to bring a Shafty chassis to the public. And working on this design with him, I wanted that design. I believed in what he had, and I wanted to bring out that design to the public. So I worked it out with him, and he gave me permission to do that because technically it was his. So I respect all designers and drivers and whatnot. So we worked out a deal, and he let me produce it. Part of my deal was that I would call it the Unstuck. So it's rock crawling. His name was Stuck. He said, it's rock crawling, you get stuck. I said, well, it's rock crawling, you get unstuck. And that's where the name was born. The name was created, was off of that whole one project. So in keeping to that idea, and then I don't know what word I'm looking for, but in keeping to that, all my shafty rigs have always been unstuck, and then they're followed by, you know, version numbers or whatever you want to call it. So there was the original unstuck. Then a year later, I came up with, I reworked the design a little bit. Cosmetically, you could still tell it was an unstuck. I've always tried to keep that image, so when somebody looks at an unstuck chassis, no matter what version, first, second, third, they know that's an unstuck. Don't know what version it is, but that's an unstuck. So came up with Gen 2 was the second generation one, hence Gen 2, and that was still built around OG axial Scorpion axles. Found some changes in the geometry that worked out well, and came out with that kit. Then following that was the third version, which I named the Unstuck 3G, which that went to the adjustable. That was the first chassis that I had the adjustable rear shock arms. A concept taken from the low C LCC, of course. So the 3G was the first chassis that I did that on, and it worked out very well. So the 3G was really the last production unstuck that I had. I was working on another one. I'll give you kind of like a how I work. I am a one-man show. I am concept. I am design. I am prototype. I am test. I am production. I am packaging, labeling, and shipping out to you. Start to finish, nuts, soup to nuts. I am all of it. I do have drivers that test for me. There are some rock crawler drivers that I go to, you know, hey, test this, break this, see what you can do with it, give me some feedback. I have on-road guys for 12 scale and the touring cars that do the same for me. I'm grateful to all of them. They give me great feedback. And it's nice to have that unbiased feedback, because to me, I don't know if I'm missing something, and or if, you know, just change it slightly and it makes it that much better. But so once I hit production with something, I'm already mentally checked out on that design. I'm working on the next version. I'm drawing it up. I'm going through my notes of, well, this is what I didn't like, this is what I did like, I wish it could do this, how do I make it do that? So I'm usually personally driving a design ahead of what's production, because I'm the primary tester. So, you know, and then from there I'll reach out to some of these other drivers and be like, hey, you know, are you still running what you had of mine? You know, this is what I did, what do you think? You know, take some feedback, continued feedback, and then, you know, we'll work around it, and they'll get a test version if they want one. So when the 3G was out, I was working on going in the direction of portals. At the time, the Capra wasn't out. There was no portal rig out. Traxxas had its TRX4, but nobody was doing anything. They're big, bulky. They're for what we do, it wasn't anything I can modify and bring to a comp with. So I went to high altitude performance and talked with Casey at the time, and he was working on 3D printed portal axles and whatnot, and not and so worked with him, got the parts. I was challenged by a time frame. I want to say this was shit. 2017, 2018. I don't remember the time frame. I don't remember if I took this to the championship in Maine with me or not. I think I did. So I think it was 2018. I do know I had basically 2 months to get this truck designed, built, tuned, and able to comp. So it was a challenge. It was incredible. I did do it. I got the parts from Casey. I built, pretty much designed everything around the parts. Like, I didn't even know axle widths that I was going to need to do. I mean, all I had was the portals. I had the center pumpkin, and I was making my own tubes. I had the match tubes, measuring width. I mean, I wouldn't do it again because it was frustrating. Just the time crunch, but it was an incredible truck. I did end up selling it. I finished in the top half of Sporty for that comp, for that championship, which for me, on a truck that was 2 months old, literally I wrote notes on paper and just started designing off measurements, and cut and print and everything within 2 months. It was insane. And I finished in the top half. It was great. I learned a ton off of that truck, as far as portals and geometry for them. And like I said, this was at a time when nobody was running a portal Sporty. And like everyone was trying to tell me, it's never going to work. Portals don't work. They raise your center of gravity, and bullshit. So I'll go into a little bit my theory on the whole CG aspect of running portals. So I did end up selling that truck. Sold that truck to finance a couple of other projects that I was working on at the time. The truck is still alive. It's still running. I see pictures of it every now and then on Facebook. You know who you are that owns it. Thank you. Every time I see that truck, it makes me happy and disappointed that I sold it, but happy that it didn't just get torn down and wrecked or bound up and snapped in half. It's always great seeing that truck when you post the pictures of it. But so then fast forward, that project put me into some racing stuff. That was what I was funding at the time, but I was still doing crawler. So then now I need a new Sporty. Season's coming up. I need a new Sporty rig. Well, here comes the Capra. That really got my attention. So I started working on the Capra. Came out, saw a lot of opportunities with that. First, I came out with I had 2 projects going at the time. I was racing to market with another vendor. It was exciting on that part. It was interesting, and I was racing to first to market on a Sporty rig for it. So I came out with both of us. We work well together. We talk, and it's not about beating. Like I said, 30 years of competition, of competitive in something. We were competitive against each other, and he brings a great product as well. So both him and I came out with something that we felt was needed for the sport, and that was basically a bare minimum bolt-on 2.2 chassis. So I came out with the Alkista. and he came out with his version of chassis. And basically, all we did was you took the cage off, disconnected the shocks, and you took our chassis, which were side plates. His had a couple extra pieces to it, but basically just side plates. You slapped them onto the existing stock skid, and you went out and you were completely 2.2S legal. Put a Lexan body on it, go comp for less than $500. Now, I couldn't keep up with my orders. I know sales were well for him. I can't speak of his orders, but he had good sales. I couldn't keep up with my demand. And I saw the positive side of it. Brought a lot of people that weren't comp drivers to being, let's try this for a minimal amount. Worst case scenario, they put the cage back on it and they go run scale. They go out in the backyard and they just bash around. But hey, let's try comp. I think it was like $50 I was selling this kit for. For $50 you could, take a $250 rig and turn it into a count the body, so $75 you could have a WRCCA legal 2.2S rig. It was a great thing for the sport, what this kit was doing and this other vendor did. And then both of us worked on like a full version of a pro rig. Well, not a pro rig, but a 2.2S full builder's rig. That's what it is. So at that point, I had a lot of information written down from my Shafty rig that I had built off of his axles, and I came out with the Numa, and the Numa used the stock shocks because they're actually, I still have them. They're actually a really good shock. Just too long. But I learned some things on the geometry there, and while the Numa was selling well and while the Kista was doing great, I was working on basically the Unstuck 4. I was working on the chassis design for that and whatnot, and I played around with it. I wasn't real happy with it. It kind of soured my taste, and I was like, well, the Numa's doing good. Guys are buying it. I'm not going to push to get the Unstuck line out. I'll kind of sit back. I'll play with some things. And then the very last year that I was in, so it was like a year after that, I did revamp the design, geometry wise and whatnot, and I had basically, I forgot what I called the file. I think it was like UTG5 or something like that. I don't even remember what the acronym was that I had for it, but it was the 5th version of the chassis, and I cut it and I started driving it, and then I ended up switching the company over to full race. So I never brought it to market, and the file's just been sitting on my computer ever since. Now we're going to fast forward back on track, and coming back into sporty. I'm going on Capra axles. I'm going to need this, I'm going to need that, I'm going to do this. The chassis worked well. Let me see if it does. Alright, let's build it off of that first. So, pull the file out and built it all. I went through, everything that I had. The stuff that we accumulate in this hobby overall, but the stuff that I've accumulated in rock crawling is, it was my question is, do I have enough SCX shocks? Do I have to scrounge around because these things are like obsolete? You know, nobody wants them. Everybody can't get rid of them. You know, nobody can get rid of them. Nobody wants to run them, but you can't find them when you need them, and nobody likes them. You know, dig through my stuff. I got probably 5 rigs worth. I got like 20 bodies. I got shock shafts. I got bladder kits. I got I'm just like, okay, I got the shocks covered. I got plenty of parts for this. Got all my springs. Dig through the Capra axles. Portal gears in stock. I'm like, all right, I gotta upgrade those. I'm not gonna do, you know, it's like now I need weight. So, you know, I got it all together, and it's actually been together for a little while now. I've just been kind of egging with a few people. Like, oh, you know, I think a couple of comments I had was like, you know, found my electronics, but, you know, they're 14 years old and the batteries don't work, or, you know, some crap like that. But I did put the rig together. I've been out and I've practiced with it, and any good designer is going to say the same thing. It's fucking awesome. The truck is really great. Everything geometry wise that I put into this, it is no BS, you know, no BS. All jokes aside, this is one of the best balanced 40s I've ever driven, and I drove a low C LCC for like 2 seasons, and when MOA was really starting to ramp up, I was out there rocking a shafty with an LCC and put countless numbers of hours into practice and tuning, and that was the best shafty rig that I ever drove. This is right there with it. Super excited about it. So with that, that's when I'm just like, okay, now it's time to introduce myself, start getting everything together, get production going on it, and introduce it. So I'm gonna run through I'll run through what comes with the truck, or what I've done to mine. So try to go slow so the camera doesn't get all weirded out. So first look at it, honestly, you're gonna be like, oh, it looks just like the 3G or the Gen 2. You know, the 3G's got the adjustable arms in the back. The arms are flippable. They are actually, by the 3G design, these arms on my rig at the moment are upside down. But depending on driver preference, you can flip them either way. One will either, you know, kind of flatten your skid out and give you the same shock length. The other, you could run like a 100 mil or 110 mil shock. If you have those lying around, that's all you have, and you're trying to piece together a truck, the shock arms will move, so you can, you know, run what you have for now until you can get better later. All the white parts are 3D printed parts. I do very minimal amount of 3D printed parts accessories. So these shock bells, they only fit SCX shocks. I run SCX, that's why I make them. They will be in the Shapeways store. They won't be available on my site. They'll be through Shapeways only, just because they're not going to be a big seller. Not many people run SCX. I like them because they capture the springs. Springs don't walk around. They can't get hung up. They are beveled to keep the springs straight on the body. I made them years ago, and I've always liked them. One thing I will have on the site is, go slow so the camera can keep up. These bottom spring seats. Why doesn't that one want to come off? Wow. So these are the same spring seats that are, they're modeled after the Deluxe. I'm trying to capture it. Come on, focus. All right, it's the same spring seat that's on a Deluxe shock. Shocks are one of the most missed opportunities at tuning a rig, I feel. So when I build them, no matter what kind or what car, I mean 12 scale's only got one shock, and touring cars have 4 shocks that are the size of a quarter. Take your time, but I'll change springs, but I hate building shocks. And the problem with crawlers is you gotta take the damn ball cup off the end of it, the rod end off the bottom of your shock to change a spring. I don't know why. Here, see the little. There we go. See that? It's just notched. You can drop it in and out. Take the shock off the axle. You don't have to take the shock apart, pull the ball cup off, fight against the shaft, mar it, dig it up. My shock limiters are, there we go. They pop right on, they pop right off. I don't know why more people don't do this. Jason got a slot. Love it. But I will have those. They're PETG 3D printed on my website. When the truck comes out, if you want them, you can grab them. They're cheap. I'll throw them up on Shapeways too, in case you wanna. Mine will be printed black. In case you want colors, I'll put them on Shapeways as well. So basically, what you're gonna get with the kit from me is carbon fiber side plates, carbon fiber shock arms. They will be 2.5 millimeter each. I am not doing 2.0 millimeter. I am not doing 1.5 millimeter. I have done that in the past as a lightweight option. I'm not going to bother. The carbon fiber, I've been using the same supplier for close to 10 years now. 0 failures on material. Failures that I've had, I've corrected because it was a design fault, not enough material or a weak spot or something. I've corrected that every time over the years, but I've never had a material failure. 3D printed parts that will come with the kit will be black, will be PETG. They will also be on Shapeways. What you will, in case you want colors, it will be this spacer here, one for each side. They're 5 millimeter. They're only needed on the shock cross. Back here, right there, it's a through hole. That spacer, by design, is actually against the side plates for structural integrity. The front is there as a spacer for this cross plate. You can do away with this. You will just need to a 50 millimeter spacer. And this will be 40. I think that's. I'll get all the measurements for sure. I forgot what it was. But it is structural. It is also just cosmetic. In all honesty, it will be black. This spacer back here, this white one, this is 2.5 millimeters thick. You'll get one for each side as well. Again, it'll be a through hole for this, so that this bar is physically attached to the outermost plates for strength. This is just the the screw that's on it here to lock in the arm is just a through screw with a nut on the back, and then the shock one is full 45 millimeter. I think I'll measure everything. It'll be all on the page when I go to production, and that's directly to the shock arms for strength. This spacer here for the shock angle I run, this spacer is 6 millimeter, 0.24. These white 3D printed body mount holders will not be in the kit. I will have them on Shapeways. I'm not going to include them in the kit because not everybody's going to use them. No, change of plans. Those will be included in the kit because you need a place to mount it. I'm not trying to make you go to 8 different sites to get things together. So these will be included in the kit as well. Change of mindset there. They are just 3D printed. They are on the shock sides, both front and rear. They are slotted so that this piece will never change location no matter what you do for shock tuning. Your body can always mount in the same spot every single time. I can tell you that these will be black as well, so anything white on this that's 3D printed and coming in the kit will be black. The skid plate will be 3D printed as well. I will they will come across. You can see this rise right here and these 2 elongated holes. So being on portals and being what I'm running and I'm designing around, this skid that comes in production is, this next part may piss some of you off, it may offend some of you. Sorry, not sorry. Disclaimer, I don't sugarcoat. I don't, I call it how I see it on a lot of things, and I'm not afraid to call things out or voice myself, and I always bring facts when I do. If I'm wrong, I'm not a keyboard hero. I'll admit when I'm wrong, and I'll publicly say it. I don't care. But this is going to be my rant on this video. My skids will come through in the kit made to fit the deluxe portal transmission that you see me running here. It is angled slightly up opposite of the skid to help get the motor away from the lower link on this side. It is able to move the transmission on, I don't know how to say it, but you can twist it to keep away from the upper link nut here, depending on what motors you run. This is a Holmes 500 puller, so it's got a little skinnier can. But if you're running like a normal 540, 550 will not fit. Don't bother. If you're running a sealed end bell motor, don't bother. There's not going to be enough room. You're going to 550 will not fit. A sealed can end bell motor, the budget motors, Reedy's and whoever else makes them, the Holmes and whatnot, they will fit, but you're going to run into fitment issues. At least get a brushed 540 motor. You can run brushless, you can run the Outrunners. If you want, they'll fit. They have absolutely no clearance issues with that. So, but back to my rant. So that top piece, this rise, is angled slightly opposite of the skid. For you internet engineers, it doesn't raise the center of gravity enough that you notice anything. I stand by that. Nobody is that good of a driver that they're going to notice a 1.5 degree rise in the center of gravity. I don't want to hear it. It's not going to change the world. So yes, it does lift the motor up a little bit. Say what you want. Don't care. The reason my skid is coming with the portal transmission from Deluxe's bolt pattern is A, it's designed primarily for portals. Straight axles will work, absolutely. The geometry is geometry. It's going to work. The center of gravity on a portal rig, I feel, is lower than a straight axle rig. But you can go to krazedbuilds.com and read my blog about why I feel that way. I've had that conversation many years ago, and obviously something's working right, because after the capper came out, and I ran portals and I didn't win with them. I'll be honest, I didn't win, but showed they could be done. And then I started, we started building on portals, and hey, there's still a lot of rigs on portals now. So, okay, so back to my part of the rant. You want to use the Deluxe portal transmission. Off of my other rigs, I've used a lot of transmissions. I've built my own transmissions. I've used the Hamburg, I've used the Cheeseburg, I've used my own versions, I've used different ratios, and the Deluxe one it works. The wheel speed and everything is actually where I want it to be, and I'm only on a 3S. My Speedo can handle a 4S. Probably won't go to it, because the 3S just feels good for me. With that said, I'm going to go into my internet rant about this. So I will have available on Shapeways a blank skid that is flat across the top for you to use any transmission that you want. I will also have one, because I know the portal transmission and the regular, I don't know the name, sorry, transmission that looks like this, that's not the portal. I know the casings, the footprint is roughly the same, but the bolt patterns are different. I don't know the bolt pattern of the other one. So I will make a skid for Shapeways that has that raise in it to get your motor off the lower link. But you'll have to drill it yourself for that transmission, or whatever transmission you want to put on it. I'm not going to make skid plates for certain transmissions. The only one I'm making it for is the Deluxe Portal, because I feel and I recommend you get that one. Now, on that, I know not everyone's made of money. I'm not... it's a weird world out there. I understand. Not everybody has money. Not everybody's made of money, and not everybody can afford a $100 transmission. That said, I also don't approve of the Chinese garbage that's out there that you guys buy, the Alibaba, Amazon bullshit. All they're doing is ripping off the people who spent the time. And, in all fairness, Hulkster was the first one that came out with an XR10 gear transmission. A lot of you are like, who, what, who? Never heard of them. Without him, a lot of you wouldn't have even seen these things. We wouldn't have even had the ideas of this gearing that we have now. So for China to come out with these things and all these knockoffs of the RC four-wheel drive ones that are using, or not the RC four-wheel, but the ones that are using, Margo style, using the RC four-wheel drive 32 pitch gears inside. I don't approve of all this Chinese crap. The other thing I'm not getting into is all of these other companies that are ripping off, copying existing transmissions out there and just cosmetically changing them. Thinner, lighter, smaller, better. They're all the fucking same. So best thing I can say is I will have a blank skid, because I also won't tolerate someone making copying something that I make and selling it. So but as far as transmissions, DLX Portal is what I recommend. That is the skid plate that is kind of going to come in the kit. I'm not changing it. I know everybody's not made of money. I understand that. Don't take it the wrong way, but this is a generation of drivers who were built and not bought. And if we couldn't build it, we figured out how to save for it, which is something nobody seems to do anymore. They want it now. They find the cheapest shit they can find. And then, in all honesty, when you go to sell a rig and you're getting pennies on the dollar, just throw it in the closet and leave it for your grandkids, because nobody wants someone else's garbage. Try to stay away from that rant. I don't approve of what I see out there. Too many designers are just getting their stuff ripped, and people are or people are bringing back things that are 12 years old, that only worked for one person back when they came out, and obviously didn't work for anyone else, because there's no one running those items, those designs now. So it's a touchy subject with me. I'm trying to not drown out this video, trying to keep it under an hour, but it's a touchy subject with me when it comes to what I've seen over the last couple of years of people just sending their designs to China, having them cut, bringing them to market that it's the next best thing, and then they sell them and they disappear, or they stick around and they rip something else off. So I take it to heart. I guess I take it to heart because a lot of people put a lot of time into their product, and to see that happen, it pisses me right off. So it changes the way I'm doing a lot of my stuff nowadays. The racing world, we don't see it that much. We barely see it at all. The car kits, they're all pretty much the same. I'll be honest on that. But that's, what works wins, and what's winning is working. So others are trying to imitate it. The crawler world, you guys are just ripping each other off, and it's comical, because when we call you out on it, you get all ass chap hurt about it. And from 3D printers is another one that I look at, where it's like just because you make something that someone else makes doesn't mean you're a designer, in my my mind. I mean, I'm not a concept dictates ownership type person. I don't. I've had that argument. Concept does not dictate ownership, but just because you take a square and make it into a rectangle doesn't mean that you really did anything different. You know, everybody can download Fusion for free. Everybody can jump into Tinkercad, GrabCAD, grabbing files here, grabbing files there, open them up, modify them. You're really not doing anything. You're just, you know, comes to a transmission. Here's the gears that they use. I'm gonna make it look different and make the same thing. Here's a chassis, and I'm gonna add screw holes everywhere and call them tuning options. I don't know. It irritates me because it's just comical, and some people are like, "Well, why do you care?" Well, you know, 40 years in this hobby, I care. The designs that are still around are winning, and they're still around and still winning because they freaking work. You're not going to reinvent the wheel. It doesn't mean stop trying to be innovative, but be original. Stop fucking copying people. Sorry, end of rant there. I'm like 52 minutes into this. So, on that rant, I will say, let's go to the front plate. So, here is a front plate that, for the Capras, I used to make a top plate that mounted the servo to one side, the battery to the other, and had an overhang in the back for you to put electronics on. I made that for a while. I sold quite a few of them. It was kind of the only option out at that time. And then guys with free download Fusions and 3D printers started coming out with, you know, 3D printed versions, and there's a lot that goes into 3D printing, and you could just tell when you look at someone's 3D print that they have no flipping clue about structural integrity in it. And so front axle mount plates started showing up, and then I slowly faded out from it, and someone else picked up where I left off in production wise, and they started making one. Nothing against them, I know who it is. They're another vendor that brings quality products to drivers that are useful. So you know who you are. You didn't copy my part. You used the concept and made it differently. It actually mounted totally different than mine. Mounted to the axle the same because there's only 2 screws, but was different enough and run with production. That's a good product. They were bringing it out, all these 3D ones that everybody's, you know, thingiverse copy and whatnot. Those are the ones that I kind of disagree with. But anyway, so Deluxe makes a plate that drops the servo actually lower than what ours were doing. So that's what I originally went with. The problem with I found for me with that plate was it's the 3D printed bucket only fits certain batteries. I don't like running 450s. I am someone that prefers to run 650s, milliamps. 500s, you know, these are the G-Force, I think they're 500s. I don't like these so much as I do for the 650s. They just they don't have the grunt come the 5-minute mark for me. So those are the only things that I could find to fit in there. My 650s don't fit. So, and then that leaves me, even mounting a battery there leaves me trying to find real estate to put my electronics. So I modified the idea and made my own plate. Servo still mounts low in the same position. The battery sits on top and mounts with a O-ring, and then my speed control and BEC are actually underneath. If you do this, I recommend heavy duty marine style heat shrink, only to be a little extra cautious about something puncturing the heat shrink. But I don't see any problem. I've been practicing with it this way. I've got minor scratches on there. I've got no punctures. I don't see any problems with it, and I don't foresee any problems. But this plate I will have available separately on the site. It's just an option to give the drivers. If the deluxe plate works good for you, great. If you think you're going to have trouble with real estate and electronics, this plate may work better. It'll be available at the time. And then my receiver is just decased, so it's literally just stuck to the side of the rail. I think it's like 3 grams. So overall, I'm a featherlight driver. I like light rigs, usually around 4 pounds, and I don't do well with them underneath. This rig, fully body on, battery on, ready to pull the trigger. I have no slugs in the front wheels. It's just the deluxe portal covers with the loaded dice hangers. I am at 3.86 pounds. I was surprised at that because I'm all steel hardware. There's very little aluminum in here. The biggest weight drop compared to the past is this transmission and the motor. Motors, I always ran light motors too, but this transmission, I'm not running this big monstrosity 3-gear trainee like we used to run. And the portal gears are lightened. I have no brass or aluminum in my axle tubes yet. I will be putting some aluminum tubes in the rear plastic. A, for strength primarily. B, for a little bit of a tail weight. But 3.86 pounds. It did feel very light in the rear end. It is very light in the rear end. But after playing around with some link adjustments, I found, and changing my driving a little bit, getting used to it again, it is, I don't remember if I said this already, but it is one of the most balanced rigs I've driven in a long time. My Losi LCC was an incredible truck for what it was back then, and this is, as far as balance goes, this is like right there with it. Shock weight, unless you're going to run SCX, don't bother using what I'm using. I can tell you that I am 35 in the back, 30 in the front. If you're running deluxe, talk with the guys that run deluxe. Even with those weights, the shocks react differently. If you're going to go with a lightweight rig, go with lightweight oil. You need that weight to transfer quick. There's a long discussion on that back in the day too. The only thing I do recommend getting for this truck is a rear link riser. It doesn't have to be anything drastic. honestly, this one, I don't even know whose it is. I gotta find out so I can get spares just in case. But it is a shapeways printed SLA link riser. It came on the axles. I'm sure it's easy to find, or if somebody even knows just by looking at it. Mount screw there, mount screw there. It's got the 2 tabs in the back and a single ear coming up. Literally from the stock mounting screw to the screw hole at the top is about 14.5, 15 millimeter rise. That's all you need. I've seen link risers out there that are like taller than the truck, and the top links are just coming straight down, and you're an idiot. It's unneeded. At the most, 14.5, 15 millimeter rise. Anything bigger than that, you got issues. But that is really the only thing that I do recommend. I did play around with links. I do recommend you could use, I think, super shafties kind of keeps you out close to the original triangulation. I do recommend going a little bit more triangulated in the rear, only because of my lower link triangulation that I designed into this rig. I'm not going to give too much away on it now, because the copycats will find some way to put it in their rigs and call it original or some shit. But I get very little rear axle steer. There's always going to be rear axle steer, but I get very little, and the front is just slightly more than the rear. But my triangulation at my skid is different, front to rear. That's why the skid is only mountable in one way because of the chassis, but the rear is a less triangulation than the front, and it's by design. So I recommend using a little bit more triangulation at the rear than at the front. The front, you're kind of locked, to the outside of the uppers, so you run kind of a straighter upper link, and you give the triangulation at the bottom. Outside of that, not really much. Deluxe loaded dice wheels, I recommend those, or Barry's RC. His rock magnets, you can run those. I recommend both of those so that you can get at least the loaded dice hangers in, and have options to add weight. I think at the most I may put 2 slugs in each side when they come in, and try that. I don't want it too heavy right now. My bias without a battery is pretty much in front of the links where they mount to the skid. As soon as I add a battery, it just drops. So it's a lot of front bias already. Trying to think what else. Yeah, production time frame, I'm looking mid-July, to be honest. I spacers, the standoffs, the braces, whatever you want to call them, I have those coming in. Should be the next couple days. Carbon, I have the sheets already. I carry the sheets in stock, that's what I do. Skids are printing. I've got about a dozen of them printed now. The last 1, 2, 3, 5. The last 5 are printing now. Those will be done by the morning. But I'm excited to be back. I do have a pro rig. I do have axles sitting over there. It's definitely not. I'm not lying when I say it's nowhere near. Axles I still have to tear apart, clean up, and decide how much I'm gonna lighten this truck up. I do have a chassis designed for it. I'm still kind of having it on. The direction I'm leaning in right now is a bodied pro rig, um, just because I can. Um, I ran one for a long time before I went bodiless. I think the first bodiless I had was a T1E Sniper Special Ops or something like that. Um, and then I ended up going with when I that was the first time I got out of the hobby, and then when I came back, um, I was working on my own design. Came back, first comp with it. You know, I did good. And then I got into just running the Dominator and driving for Fifth Dimension. So I don't know what direction I'm going yet on the pro rig. In all honesty, I might go back with the 5D. I mean, Chris is great. The team was always great. The truck, the truck obviously works. The chassis. Um, I do have. I have worked on my own pro design. I just don't know if I want to get into the pro chassis. The other option I'm kind of playing on, in all honesty, is just taking the unstuck NFG. I'm pretty much gonna call it just that, just out of sarcasm. But taking the maybe the NFG 5, who knows? But running a body pro rig for a while. I just sitting here staring at the rig one night. I was just like, you know, I wonder what that geometry would do up against what I have designed for a pro rig and what I was anticipating on cutting and running, and started matching everything up, and I'm like, things are lining up kind of where I want them to be. I'm like, numbers are coming up where I want them to be. So, you know, to get me back in the pro side of it, I'm probably, for starters, I'm probably just going to throw an unstuck. I'll throw a sporty chassis on it and wheel the shit out of it. We'll see what happens with it. Don't know. But I am excited to have another rig together. Have it right out of the gate work so well for me. My practice runs have been at a site close to me that we used to comp at quite a few years. So, you know, I still remember the lines we ran then, and pushing on this to do what I think everybody is up to. I'm super excited. Comp wise, I don't know. We'll see what I hit. You know, like I said, it's just going to be a summer thing for me. I'll hit a couple comps here and there, but I'll always be, as a designer, I'm always in developing mode. So, you know, every time I go out with this, I'm going to be thinking about like what, you know, what could take it to the next level. So, I really don't have anything else. You can always, questions or comments, you can always hit me up. I don't, this gets posted to YouTube. I don't use YouTube as a monetary source. And to monetize, you got the, I'll never reach monetary numbers. So if you have a question or you have a comment or you just want to bust my stones about something, don't bother with YouTube. Bring it to my Facebook page. Like I said earlier, I'm not a sugarcoater. I bring, I'll get into any conversation about anything. I don't ban people. I don't block people. You want to call me a turd or a shithead on my Facebook page? I really don't care. To each their own. If you want to go down that route, you got to be able to back it up. Otherwise, you're gonna get lanced on on the page. If you got comments or questions, absolutely. You can always reach me on Messenger. My Messenger is always on, whether it's, I mean, this video isn't just for the rock crawling guys, this is for the racing guys too. You guys want to reach me, get in touch with me that way. The Messenger is always on. I always see it during the day. You certainly can email me. My emails have just been getting blown up with a lot of stuff, so I gotta do better. I have to do better. I am missing emails every now and then. I just get inundated with a lot of stuff. Like I said, racing is, it's not just what you see on my site is not just what I do. I do a lot of work for other people. Even though I haven't been crawling, I have done crawler projects for people, racing projects for people. You know, it's a side work. So, hit me up on the Facebook. Don't bother with, you know, if it's a comment, you just want to throw it out there, throw it on YouTube, that's good. If you're looking for interaction, YouTube is not really the strong point for me. So hit me up on Facebook, Krazed Builds. I'll do some fancy credit rolling at the end of this with, you know, information, Instagram, shit like that. Thank you for watching. It's an hour and 12 minutes of your life you just threw away. Apologize, but thank you. Next video I do bring out, I will have footage of this running. It won't be at a comp. I know some New England guys are like, hey, come to the next one. Yeah, it's a long drive for me. I know the next comp from when this video is being made is up in Maine. I'd love to go back, but it's unless it's a championship or a national or a national or a worlds, I don't see me going back to Maine. Not for a day trip. Maybe New Hampshire up to Perps Place, or definitely out to Spring Fling or Fall Classic. But keep tagging me in your posts and instigating me. Keeps my attention, because otherwise I'll lose what you guys are doing and forget. But again, any questions, comments, hit me up on the Facebook page, hit me up on Messenger. I'm shooting for mid-June, the week after July 4th, to have kits available. I'll probably do, initially for this summer, I'll probably do, I don't know what I'm going to do. But like I said, all the 3D parts that you saw on my rig, besides the shock parts, will be included in the kit. So you'll get a 3D printed skid. You're going to get the, change my mind tonight, you're going to get the 3D printed body mount holders, not the posts. Posts, just, I don't know, find something. Everybody's got them. These are actually old ones off XR10, so that's how much crap I have. But the physical holders that go on the cross members, those will come with it. The spacers, and of course the skid plate for the deluxe portal transmission, as well as everything will be on Shapeways. I just have to finalize the files, because FDM printing to SLA, the sizes get a little wonky when they're coming out to that. So those parts will be up probably in the next couple weeks. I'll post everything up on the Facebook page when production hits, when I have them in store. But again, thank you for all the support from the racing scene to the crawler scene. I appreciate everything. Like I said, 2014 is when I started cutting on a machine that pretty much the size of a small monitor. Now I got two machines that are the size of a big screen TV. I think that's all I can think of at the moment. Thanks again. I do look forward to hooking back up with a lot of drivers and the crawler scene and getting together and hanging out. It's gonna be fun when I can make it out there. But all right, that's it for now. Have a good night. It's already dark here, and till the next time. Thanks.